Now, this managed to make the rounds on Twitter for some reason. A lot of people looked at it and they felt the need to comment various things. But one of the more interesting comments that I want to analyze today is this interesting theory. Now, it is popular to call it a conspiracy theory because every single hypothesis is to be conspiring. But in reality, it's just people asking a question like, if comic books don't sell, why do they still make them? And the conclusion that certain individuals arrived at is that it's a money laundering scheme. I really think that the IRS should start taking a closer look at these comics. It seems that it's a money laundering scheme. What money? This is the reason the comics are not selling. Say you have money from some illegal business and you want to convert it to US government approved income. So you're finance some venture like a terrible comic book, overstate your expenses, and hire people like diversity consultant, celebrity guest author, or cultural authenticity editor. And that's how you make a lot of money. You pretend that your ill-gotten illegal money is actually income from what you would otherwise be a failed venture. Now, a shitty comic that no one reads or a bad movie that no one watches is a successful business generating legal revenue for you. I would think media would be a perfect way to do this because paying for talent probably has a wide variance. So you can say you paid a lot, but actually paid very little. I do not think that this person is correct. There are indeed ways that criminals launder money, usually through art. But it's a lot easier to do it on an art piece that can be worth $20 million and it's just a couple of ketchups painted on it than to go with something so high profile like a Batgirl comic. What is happening, however, it is a shakedown of the industries. You have people that claim that comic books have a problem with racism, and the only way to fix racism is to put them in positions of power. So these are the cultural consultant, the diversity officer, all of these people that don't really add any revenue to the company and that the company has existed for years without their guidance. And it is a sort of shakedown because it's like, oh, it would be a shame if someone were to call you a racist. But if you hire me, I'm going to make sure that no one calls you a racist. And we've seen this with Anita Sarkeesian out in the open a couple of years ago. She made a huge big deal about The Witcher being sexist. And then she was like, oh, people call you sexist, CD Projekt Red. Why don't you hire me as a consultant and we're going to make all of that go away. We're going to make sure that it doesn't happen. So that's how the game is played. And secondly, these people are wanting loans from investors. And the way they can get it is through raising their ESG scores. So ESG is a risk assessment score. In other words, the investors want to know how risky a business is before they invest into it. But the problem is that risk assessment is very subjective. So the way they do it is by having this ESG. E stands for environmentalism, S stands for social, and G for governance. So environmentalism is what are you doing to make sure that you're not polluting the atmosphere. So taking pictures with Greta Thunberg, having an ambitious carbon lowering thingy. All of these things raises your environmentalism score. Social stands for being a progressive. It's literally the woke score, like how much you're championing diversity. And it can be lowered if you get into scandals, into public scandals, like for example Google, because of Carlos Maza back in the day. They got expelled from one of the LGBT marches in California now. So this probably lowered their social score, right? So virtue signaling increases it, getting it to scandals decreases it. And then the G stands for governance. And that's like how many women you have on your board, how many LGBT people you have on your board, do you have a diversity officer? All of that things raises your governance score. So by having a high ESG guarantees that you are going to get loans from BlackRock and other investors. So this is why the companies are doing it. They are not banking on the fact that they're going to sell comic books. Instead, they're banking on the fact that they're going to get more investors to pay in. And at one point, the gravy train is going to stop. But the people who work in the comics, they don't care. The people at the top know that the gravy train will stop. And when that happens, they have a golden parachute. While the idiots that they hire, they probably don't even care about these things. They probably think that the paycheck is just going to keep coming and coming regardless of how many comic books they sell. And that's why they keep giving sass to people on Twitter, because they don't realize that the people they're giving sass to are their customers, and they don't care about their customers because for them, working at a corporation means that money just materializes on their credit card. They don't really understand the transaction that needs to happen for them to make a profit. And of course, finally, there are other ways that comic books tap into getting money. One of the best ways that woke people like to make money is to go through the taxpayer. So they can price a comic book for $9.99 and then try to sell it to schools, to libraries, where there are other people that are like-minded as them, and they agree to the deal and they purchase 1,000 comic books for $10. And then the comic book is at the library, no one reads it, but it's paid from the taxpayer money. So that is why you notice all of these comic books doubling down and keep doing what they are doing, because they do not view the traditional business model of putting on a product and hoping that the customer will buy it as something that they want to do. They hate the customer. They state it openly on Twitter. And they do believe that Twitter is the real world. And ever since Elon Musk bought Twitter, we saw that that is definitely not the case. The algorithm was manipulating the real world by quite a lot. And it's going to be interesting to see if the business model is going to stop at one point. It can't go on anymore. I mean, I looked at the sales. The investors are going to give money, and then they're going to go for other investors to pay the previous investors, and then for other investors. But like at one point, it will stop. And there's going to be a lot of salt when that happens. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you in the comment section. And if you enjoy this, consider subscribing, giving a thumbs up, or heaven forbid, if you want some buyer remorse, click that super thanks button, and I'll see you guys there. Take care.